The calm before the storm. The sterile lights of the United Earth Command flickered overhead as Commander Rhea Morrow paced back and forth in the briefing room. Her boots clicked on the cold floor, the sound punctuating the silence that weighed heavily on her. The walls were lined with holographic screens, displaying projections of the galaxy, star maps, fleet movements, and data feed from Earth colonies across the stars. It was a nerve-wracking cacophony, but nothing seemed to matter. Not now. The Zorath were coming. Rhea knew this wasn't just another diplomatic crisis. It wasn't some minor skirmish over border disputes or trade routes. This was the beginning of something much larger. The Zorath weren't like the other galactic powers, each with their own games of politics and posturing. No, the Zorath were conquerors. Brutal, merciless, and absolutely certain of their superiority. In the last 2 weeks, reports had flooded in of Zorath warships appearing near outlying human colonies, planets that had been colonies for barely a decade or two. The Zorath didn't announce their arrival with diplomacy. They arrived with the cold efficiency of a species that had eradicated countless others. Rhea clenched her fists. She could almost feel the tension in her bones, like a storm was brewing just beneath her skin. "Commander Morrow," a voice broke her thoughts. General Elijah Ford, Earth's highest-ranking military officer, entered the room, his stern expression matching the weight of the moment. His uniform was crisp, though his gray hair betrayed the years of experience that weighed on him. "The Council is ready for you." Rhea nodded, her jaw tight. The Council, Earth's governing body, a mix of military leaders, diplomats, and business moguls who control the direction of humanity's future in the galaxy. But for all their power, they were just humans, like the rest of them, trying to navigate a galaxy far bigger than they ever anticipated. The doors to the council chamber slid open, revealing a group of men and women sitting at a long, polished table. Some were familiar faces, high-ranking officials she had worked with for years. Others were strangers, fresh faces representing the corporations that had once only cared about profit, now sitting in judgment over Earth's fate. Their expressions were grim, tense. "Commander Morrow, please," General Ford gestured for her to take a seat. As she did, the council began their discussions. "The Zorath fleet is on its way," Councilwoman Elira Talbot said, her voice sharp. "We can't ignore it any longer. The reports are clear. They've already decimated entire colonies." A hologram projected from the center of the table, a live feed from a distant star system. The image was grainy, but unmistakable. An enormous Zorath warship, the size of a moon, was in orbit around a small mining colony. The planet's surface was already scorched, the atmosphere cracking open under the force of the Zorath weaponry. Rhea felt her stomach tighten. This wasn't just an invasion, it was a slaughter. "We've analyzed their tactics," said Admiral Jacques Kell, his deep voice carrying a note of defeat. "They don't negotiate. They don't leave survivors. Our defense fleet is too small to take on their fleet head-to-head, and we don't have the firepower to defend Earth." The room fell silent as the weight of his words sank in. The Zorath had conquered dozens of star systems. They had crushed entire civilizations with their might. Humanity was small, scattered across the galaxy, with colonies that were no match for their military superiority. There was no way Earth could stand alone. "We have to surrender," Councilman Hanlock said quietly, his face pale. "We don't have a choice. We can't win. We must save what we can." Rhea's chest tightened at his words. It was what she had feared, what she knew would happen. The Council would want to bend the knee. Let the Zorath take what they wanted. It was the easiest option, the logical option, the one that would preserve Earth's citizens. But it wasn't the right option. Rhea's mind flashed back to the training she'd undergone in the military, to every grueling exercise and simulation. She had never been one to follow orders blindly. It was why she'd risen to the rank of commander in the first place, because she always thought outside the box, found solutions where others saw only failure. "I won't stand by and let this happen," Rhea said, her voice cutting through the tense silence like a blade. Her gaze flicked from one council member to the next, and she saw the hesitation in their eyes, the fear. "We can't just roll over and die. We have one chance, one shot at this." "Commander," General Ford began, his tone measured, You're not listening to reason. Our forces aren't equipped to deal with a threat like the Zorath. You can't take them on by yourself. Rhea didn't flinch. I'm not planning to do this alone. She leaned forward, placing her palms flat on the table. You've all been hiding the truth from the public about our secret project, about Titan. A murmur rippled through the council. It was no secret that Earth had been working on cutting-edge military technology in secret for decades, but the full extent of that project had been classified to the highest degree. The Titan program was humanity's final ace in the hole, a weapon so advanced that it could potentially turn the tide of war. Rhea's voice grew more intense. If you want to save Earth, then let me handle it. I'll take Titan and bring the fight to the Zorath. If anyone can stop them, it's humanity. It's us. The council hesitated, the weight of Rhea's words hanging in the air. For a moment, Rhea thought they might reject her. But then, Councilwoman Talbot spoke up, her voice cold, yet resolute. Fine, she said, her tone biting. You'll have your chance, Commander. But if you fail, we won't have a second chance. Rhea stewed, the gravity of her decision settling in. I won't fail. Not this time. As she turned and left the room, she could feel the weight of the galaxy pressing down on her. The fate of humanity was now in her hands, and she wasn't about to let it slip away. This chapter establishes the initial conflict, humanity's desperation in the face of an overwhelming alien threat, and introduces Commander Rhea Morrow as a determined leader willing to defy the odds. The decision to activate the secret Titan program sets the stage for a high-stakes, action-packed narrative that will have far-reaching consequences for the galaxy. The unseen weapon. The sleek metallic surface of the Titan glimmered under the harsh lights of the hidden facility on Mars. Rhea stood before it, her gaze locked on the ship that had been Earth's best-kept secret for over a decade. It was almost too perfect, its design a fusion of cutting-edge human engineering and something else, something she couldn't quite place. It was too advanced, too alien. She had heard the stories, the whispers of Titan's capabilities, but standing before it now, Rhea was beginning to understand. This wasn't just a warship. This was a weapon that could rewrite the balance of power in the galaxy. Behind her, the team of engineers and scientists who had worked on Titan watched nervously. Most of them had spent years on the project, but none had seen it in its final form. The ship had been built with the assumption that it would never see combat, that it would remain a mere deterrent. But now, it had become humanity's last hope. Commander Morrow, Dr. Olivia Ray, the lead scientist, approached with a datapad in hand, her voice anxious but filled with respect. The Titan is operational, but there are systems we've never fully tested. I must emphasize the risks. If you push it too far, the ship may not be able to handle it. Rhea turned toward her, the weight of her decision clear in her eyes. She had come to Mars expecting to take the ship into battle, but now that she was here, the reality of what that meant was starting to hit her. The ship was humanity's trump card, its most powerful asset, but no one knew exactly how it would perform under real-world conditions. I'm aware of the risks, Doctor, Rhea replied, her voice steady. But if we don't take this fight to the Zorath, we're finished. Dr. Ray hesitated for a moment before nodding, as if acknowledging the truth in Rhea's words. Then we're ready for you, Commander. The ship is yours. Rhea walked forward, her boots clicking against the cold metal floor as she approached the hatch. Her fingers brushed the smooth surface of Titan's hull, feeling an almost electric charge pulse through her fingertips. She had been briefed on the ship's capabilities, of course. Its AI core, its nearly indestructible armor, its unmatched speed and firepower. But standing in front of it, Rhea realized that none of those facts mattered unless she could make the ship hers. She needed to understand it, to become one with it. The hatch opened with a hiss, and Rhea stepped inside. The interior of Titan was nothing like any military vessel she had ever seen. It was sleek, almost sterile, with walls lined by integrated holographic panels. There were no traditional control panels, no clunky buttons or levers. Instead, the ship's systems were controlled by thought, an advanced neural interface that allowed Rhea to communicate directly with the AI that ran the ship. Commander Morrow, The voice of Titan's AI rang out in her mind, calm and unemotional. It was a disembodied voice, but it was somehow comforting. System diagnostics complete. All primary functions are operational. Awaiting your command. Rhea took a deep breath. The weight of the moment pressed on her shoulders. This was it, the point of no return. The AI, named Astra, was a masterpiece of human ingenuity. It had been designed not just to operate the ship, but to think, adapt, and learn from its environment. It was the perfect weapon against a force like the Zorath. But it was also, in some ways, more dangerous than anything humanity had ever created. Let's see what you can do. Astra, Rhea muttered, settling into the captain's chair. She felt a pulse of energy as the neural interface activated, sending a surge of data straight into her mind. It was overwhelming at first. The ship's systems, its capabilities, its potential all rushing into her consciousness. She fought to keep her focus, to filter out the noise. Commander, Astra's voice cut through the barrage of information. I have detected multiple Zorath vessels entering the Sol system. They are within range to launch a full-scale assault on Earth. Rhea's heart skipped a beat. The time was now. The Zorath had arrived. Set course for Earth. Maximum speed, Rhea ordered, her voice steady. The ship's response was immediate. Titan hummed to life, its engines roaring with power as it launched into the darkness of space. As they tore through the void, Rhea quickly ran through her battle plans in her mind. She would need to engage the Zorath fleet head-on. The Titan was a ship built for speed and precision, and that's exactly what she needed. Hit them fast, hit them hard, and disrupt their fleet before they could bring their full strength to bear on Earth. She turned her attention to the holographic display in front of her, which now projected a map of the Sol system. Zorath ships were closing in on Earth's orbit, their massive warships like hulking shadows against the backdrop of the stars. But Rhea was already calculating her approach, adjusting the trajectory of Titan to avoid the main line of fire. She was going to make them chase her, make them think she was weak, unprepared. Initiate long-range weapons systems, Rhea commanded. Target the lead ship. The ship's AI complied, and the first of Titan's weapons systems powered up. The ship wasn't just armed with conventional weapons. It had energy disruptors capable of disabling entire fleets with a single shot, and adaptive shields that could shift and evolve based on the nature of incoming attacks. Weapons systems online, Astra confirmed. Locking onto the target. Rhea took a deep breath. Fire. The Titan's energy cannons roared to life, a beam of concentrated power shooting out and striking the lead Zorath warship with a brilliance that lit up the dark expanse of space. The ship's shields flared, absorbing the energy, but Rhea could see the crackling damage begin to spread across its hull. The Zorath had underestimated humanity. Direct hit, Astra reported. The enemy ship's shields are weakening. Additional firepower is required to breach their hull. Rhea's lips curled into a tight smile. Then let's give them everything we've got. As the Zorath fleet closed in, Rhea Morrow, humanity's last hope, had no intention of surrendering. She was about to show the galaxy exactly what happened when a human said, "Fine, I'll handle it." This chapter builds on the tension established in the first, as Rhea takes control of the Titan warship and prepares to go on the offensive against the Zorath fleet. The introduction of the Titan's advanced technology, paired with Rhea's determination, sets the stage for humanity's unexpected and powerful retaliation against a seemingly invincible alien force. When humans fight back, the darkness of space stretched infinitely around the Titan, the ship now a gleaming beacon of defiance in the cold void. Rhea Morrow's mind buzzed with adrenaline as she guided her ship through the debris field that was once a part of the Zorath warship fleet. The Titan's weapons had torn through the alien armada with deadly precision, but there was no time to bask in victory. She could feel the heat of the battle in her chest, a fire that refused to go out. The Zorath weren't done, not by a long shot. Titan's AI, Astra, reported the status of the remaining fleet in calm, almost dispassionate tones. But Rhea knew better than to let the numbers lull her into complacency. The Zorath were relentless, and they weren't going to stop until they had crushed humanity. Earth had barely a chance of surviving their wrath. That is, unless they were stopped here. Now, she glanced at the data feed before her. More Zorath ships were incoming, closing in fast, like a swarm of metallic locusts, their massive warships nearly the size of moons. There were hundreds of them. Rhea's jaw tightened. The enemy wasn't just trying to destroy Earth. They were trying to send a message to the galaxy that humanity was weak, insignificant, and ready to fall in line. "Commander," Austra's voice cut through the tension in her mind. "Zorath reinforcements have arrived. Their ships are now entering firing range. Tactical response required." Rhea swiveled her chair toward the holographic map of the battlefield. The Zorath warships, though heavily armored, were beginning to form a battle line. They were predictable, operating within the same set of parameters, familiar tactics, and attack patterns. But Rhea wasn't going to fight this war by the Zorath's rules. "Adjust trajectory," Rhea ordered. "We're not waiting for them to come to us. Initiate a direct approach at high velocity, then cut left to create chaos in their lines." Astra processed the command, and the ship shuddered as the Titan shifted direction, its engines roaring to life with an intensity that matched the urgency in Rhea's voice. The battle outside was a maelstrom of flashing lights and the muted roar of weapons fire, but Rhea was calm, focused. She couldn't afford to lose her nerve now. Engaging evasive maneuvers, Astra responded. The ship's massive hull hummed as it accelerated, braking toward the incoming fleet with shocking speed, more agile than anything the Zorath would expect from a warship of its size. They were quick to react, but they weren't fast enough. The Titan darted between their formations, firing its railguns at one ship after another, tearing into their shields and hulls with surgical precision. The first Zorath ship in line exploded into a brilliant shower of debris, its massive form rupturing under the force of the railgun's devastating impact. Rhea could almost feel the tremor in her bones as the shockwave reverberated through the ship. But she didn't flinch. Not once. Not while humanity's fate hung in the balance. "Enemy shields on the third vessel are down," Astra reported, her voice crisp. "Their weapons systems are offline. Recommend finishing the ship before they recover." Rhea's eyes narrowed. The Zorath had underestimated humanity's technological advancement and, more importantly, their capacity to fight for their survival. "Finish them," Rhea growled. "Target their engines. Hit them with everything we've got." She clenched her fists, her mind running through every possible scenario. She couldn't afford mistakes. Every shot fired, every maneuver executed had to count. They had no second chances. The Titan responded instantly, a series of energy pulses fired from the ship's main cannons. One after another, the beams lashed out, slamming into the vulnerable Zorath warship's engines. The resulting explosion was magnificent, blinding even in the cold emptiness of space, and the ship was no more. There was no time to revel in victory, though. The rest of the fleet was circling in, more ships locking onto Titan's position. "Rhea, we're drawing their attention." Astra's voice was almost apologetic. "The remaining Zorath ships are coordinating an assault. Their weapons will be ready in 30 seconds. Rhea cursed under her breath. They were coming in fast, and she could feel the weight of the decision pressing on her. If she didn't make a move now, they'd be surrounded. "Divert all power to shields and weapons," she ordered. "Initiate evasive action, maximum speed." The Titan lurched as its engines roared to life, the ship cutting a sharp, unpredictable path through the battlefield. The Zorath ships, trying to predict her next move, fired in tandem. Their lasers lanced through the dark, but Rhea's evasive maneuvers kept her one step ahead. The Titan danced between the blasts, its shields flaring with each hit but holding firm. A deep breath escaped her as she punched another series of commands into the ship's interface. It was time to end this. No more skirmishes. No more games. "Prepare to fire the quantum disruptor," she said with cold clarity. "Quantum disruptor online," Astra confirmed, the ship's main weapon charging with an ominous hum. Rhea could almost feel the power building, the energy swirling beneath her feet. Fire! A massive beam of energy surged forward, its light blinding even from the Titan's viewpoint. The disruptor sliced through the Zorath formation like a hot knife through butter, tearing apart ships in its path. The Zorath's coordination began to crumble as their fleet's formation shattered, their ships falling into disarray. Multiple vessels incapacitated, Ustra reported. We've taken out nearly half their fleet, Commander. Rhea allowed herself a brief moment of satisfaction, but there was no time for celebration. The Zorath was still dangerous, and more were on their way. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. She didn't look back as she gripped the controls, her determination hardening with each passing moment. The galaxy would remember this. Humanity would no longer be dismissed. Keep pushing forward, Rhea said, her voice low and resolute. We're just getting started. This chapter further escalates the action as Rhea leads the Titan against the Zorath fleet. Her leadership, tactical genius, and humanity's technological advantage turn the tide in humanity's favor. But the Zorath aren't defeated yet. The fight is far from over, and Rhea's resolve is tested as she faces greater and greater odds. The battle is becoming more intense, and the true power of humanity is starting to emerge on the galactic stage. The heart of the storm. The debris from the Zorath fleet floated in the darkness of space, shards of metal and twisted wreckage drifting aimlessly in the void. The Titan hovered in the wake of the destruction, its powerful engines humming with barely contained energy. Rhea Morrow's hands gripped the controls, sweat on her brow. The battle not yet won, but the edge of victory now within reach. Ustra, she said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. What's our status? The remaining Zorath forces are regrouping, Ustra's calm, mechanical voice responded. Their fleet has pulled back to form a new formation. Their flagship is in the center. Power levels are increasing across their ships. Rhea's eyes narrowed. The Zorath were regrouping. They were preparing for their final strike. She could feel the weight of the decision pressing on her chest. The Titan had taken down half their fleet, but there were still dozens of warships remaining, and the Zorath had an overwhelming capacity for destruction. If she didn't end this now, Earth would be next. She turned her attention to the star map projected before her, the trajectories of the remaining Zorath ships blinking like a warning beacon. Their flagship, the Vortex, sat at the center, a colossal structure brimming with firepower. She could almost feel its presence, looming like a storm cloud on the horizon. The Vortex is their flagship, Rhea muttered to herself, calculating. If we take it down, the rest of their fleet will scatter. But I'll need a precise shot. There's no margin for error, Ustra replied, as though sensing Rhea's thoughts. You're risking everything. We don't have enough firepower to guarantee the Vortex will go down with a single strike. Rhea's jaw clenched. She had no choice. There were no reinforcements on the way. No backup. The Titan was humanity's last weapon, and Earth's last line of defense. If she didn't push forward now, if she didn't take the risk, Earth would fall. All of humanity's progress, the colonies, the history they'd built, it would be swept away in an instant. I know what's at stake, she replied, her voice a calm force of will. Prepare the ship for the final assault. All power to the quantum disruptor. We hit them with everything we have. Ustra's voice was filled with a hint of concern. The Vortex has activated its shield defenses. You'll need to break through them before you can hit their central core. Not a problem, Rhea said, the determination in her tone palpable. Just give me a clean shot. The Titan surged forward, cutting through the void with the fury of a comet. The Zorath fleet was no longer a coordinated threat. It had splintered, each ship attempting to recover, repositioning themselves in a desperate attempt to hold their formation together. But the Titan was relentless, weaving through their disorganized ranks, lasers and railgun blasts tearing into their vessels with surgical precision. Every strike from the Titan was calculated, designed not just to destroy, but to create chaos among the Zorath. Rhea was playing a game of high-stakes chess, her mind working overtime to anticipate each move. Shields holding at 87%, Ustra reported. Engaging Vortex. Rhea's heart pounded in her chest. The time had come. The Vortex was closing in. Its massive form was a dark silhouette against the stars, and its weapon systems were now fully active, crackling with deadly energy. The Zorath flagship had begun its assault, unleashing a barrage of plasma and railgun fire aimed directly at the Titan. Rhea's hands moved instinctively, guiding the ship in a series of evasive maneuvers, but she could feel the ship straining under the pressure of the incoming fire. Her shields flared under the onslaught, absorbing the hits, but the Zorath were relentless. The ship's engines screamed as she pushed them to the limit. Locking onto the vortex, Astra's voice cut through the chaos. Quantum disruptor charging. Rhea's grip tightened on the controls. Keep charging it. The Titan jerked as another plasma blast struck its shields. The ship rocked violently, but Rhea remained unfazed. The Zorath flagship was within range now. Just one shot, one precise moment to end this. Her heart raced. Her mind was clear. Everything. For Earth. For humanity. The countdown to the quantum disruptor reached its final moments. The air around her seemed to hum with energy as the Titan prepared to unleash its final blow. Disruptor fully charged. Ready to fire. Fire, Rhea commanded. The Titan's quantum disruptor cannon fired with a blinding flash. A beam of concentrated energy erupted from the ship, cutting through space like a laser of pure destruction. The beam slammed into the vortex's shields, causing them to flicker and crackle with energy. Rhea watched, her breath held, as the beam continued its assault. The shield of the vortex began to fracture, splintering under the force of the attack. The Zorath flagship's massive hull groaned under the strain. And then, with a final, deafening explosion, the vortex's shield shattered entirely. The quantum disruptor found its mark. The Zorath flagship erupted in a fiery explosion that sent shockwaves through space, the force of it causing smaller vessels in the fleet to spin out of control. The vortex, their heart, their command center, was gone. Direct hit, Astra confirmed, her tone almost clinical in its precision. The vortex is destroyed. The remaining Zorath forces are retreating. Rhea let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding, her body momentarily sagging with relief. They had done it. Against all odds, humanity had struck back, and the Zorath had been thrown into disarray. But the victory felt hollow as she looked at the remains of the Zorath fleet, now scattered and damaged. The cost had been high. They had won the battle, but the war was far from over. Commander Morrow, Astra's voice broke through her thoughts. There are still Zorath ships near Earth. Their fleet is retreating, but their reinforcements are still en route. We must act quickly to intercept before they can regroup. Rhea nodded, her gaze hardening. The galaxy had learned today that humanity was not to be underestimated. But the fight for Earth was still far from over. Set a course for Earth. We've got work to do. As the Titan began its course back toward the Sol system, Rhea Morrow knew that the Zorath would not forgive this defeat. They would return. But now, they would face a humanity that had shown it would not go down without a fight. And next time, the galaxy would know exactly what it meant when a human said, "Fine, I'll handle it." This chapter marks the turning point in the battle against the Zorath, with Rhea delivering the final blow to their flagship, the Vortex. The destruction of the flagship sends the Zorath into retreat, but the war is far from over. Rhea's resolve and tactical brilliance have turned the tide, but she knows that this is only the beginning of humanity's fight to secure their place in the galaxy.